I watched the livestream thumbnail bloom on my phone, and the room tilted as if the floor had slipped its screws. Maya said, "Jason, you couldn't wait a month?" He grinned beside Evelyn, all champagne teeth and vows rehearsed like lines. The rain outside clawed my windows, and the city answered with blue sirens and wet neon. Evelyn said, "To new beginnings," while she slipped on my mother's ring, the one he swore he lost in a move. My throat burned, and the mug in my hand trembled against the counter. Jason said, "We're finally doing it, Ev." And his voice carried the calm of a man who never pays for wreckage. I pinched the screen and saw my face reflected, pale and cut with pixel static. Maya said, "You always wanted applause more than love." The chat flew with hearts, like confetti from strangers who never bled for him. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, a winking emoji and a bridal veil. My pulse snapped a wire, and rain hammered its verdict. I did not cry. I counted debts. The night dragged into a gray morning that smelled like wet stone and burnt coffee. I replayed the ring, the grin, the veil emoji, until the loops cut grooves in my head. Maya said, "He stole history, and she wore it like a crown." I opened the cedar box where the ring should have slept, empty as a missing tooth. My mother's note lay beneath, soft with years, and my chest cramped like a fist. Maya said, "You promised to guard it, Jason." A seagull cackled outside like a bad joke, drifting inland. I scrolled their registry, eyes snagging on monograms and honeyed captions. Evelyn said, "It was meant for us all along," in a clip I found from a rehearsal toast. The line rang like a dare. I set the phone down and counted out breaths, slow, even, defiant. Pain is a map, and mine began to show roads. I called Jason, and the ring buzz pulsed in my ear until his voice clicked in, smooth as lacquer. Jason said, "Congratulations would have been kinder." I counted 3 beats to cage the tremor. Maya said, "You lied about the ring, and you lied about me." He exhaled like a bored actor between scenes. Jason said, "Evelyn deserved better than rumors." The word scrubbed raw places I hid. A notification chimed with a tagged photo, their kiss caught from another angle. Maya said, "Return the ring, and I will forget this call." Silence suffered for a bar. Then he laughed, low and patient. Jason said, "It suits her." The floor chilled my feet, and I imagined marble beneath a vaulted ceiling. Maya said, "Then hear me clearly, because the world will." He started to say my name as if it were still his to summon, and I hung up. Ben showed up with coffee and the clatter of keys like cymbals. Ben said, "Tell me you slept." I gestured at the ruins of a night, the fragments of mug, the open box, the note. He set 2 cups down and looked at me as if I were a cliff face with edges to measure. Maya said, "He gave her my mother's ring." Ben's mouth thinned, and he rubbed his wrist where an old scar lived. Ben said, "We go careful, or not at all." I wanted fire, but the word careful tasted like ice. We sat in the hum of the fridge, outlines drawn in chalk by poor light. Maya said, "I need proof, and I need allies." Ben nodded, slow as a verdict. Ben said, "I'm here, but we draw lines before we cross them." The line he named felt like a fuse begging for flame. I cleaned the shards and set the box on the table, like a contract. Maya said, "He thinks I'll swallow it." The rain thinned to a mist that made the city seem newly sketched. I opened a blank note on my phone and wrote the first line with a pulse that steadied as letters formed. Maya said, "You took from the dead to crown the living, and I will take back what's mine." The words warmed my fingers and cooled my head. I pictured Evelyn lifting her chin at cameras, unafraid, and my mouth drew a hard line. Ben said, "Make it legal, make it public, make it true." I nodded, hearing a rhythm rise from below my ribs. Maya said, "I'll start with the paper trail, then the story." Resolve clicked in like a seatbelt, snug and sure. Somewhere a siren faded, and the room felt bright enough to see the path. The morning after, the air was heavy with silence, and the faint hum of traffic below. Maya said, "I need a plan that cuts clean, not reckless." Her eyes scanned the city skyline, as if revenge might be etched between rooftops. Ben paced, clutching his cup, weighing every step. Ben said, "Plans need patience. Rush it, and you'll bury yourself." Her chest tightened, but the fire in her throat grew sharper. She pinned notes to the board, arrows and circles, spinning like constellations. Maya said, "He stole more than a ring, Ben. He stole the part of me that trusted." Ben pressed his hand flat against the table, grounding her storm. Ben said, "We need leverage, not anger." Maya exhaled, thin and deliberate, and the rain cleared enough for sunlight to strike the corner of the room. A plan had begun to breathe. By dusk, Maya met Evelyn's old mentor at a forgotten cafe with cracked leather booths and fading neon. Ruth said, "Revenge doesn't heal, but it teaches." Her voice carried a rasp like gravel rubbed raw. Ruth's eyes flicked to Maya's restless fingers drumming the chipped mug. Maya said, "He humiliated me with my mother's ring." Ruth smirked faintly, eyes clouded by smoke of memory. Ruth said, "Then you'll need proof, not rage. Paper trails never lie." The streetlight outside buzzed, and a moth circled hopelessly. Maya leaned forward, the air heavy with roasted beans and old betrayal. Maya said, "Show me where to start." Ruth nodded, her rings glinting like scars in the low light. Ruth said, "Follow the documents, the deals he made. That's where he hides." The world outside blurred, but the path sharpened. Jason stood before the press, tailored suit crisp, Evelyn on his arm, with a diamond blaze catching flashes. Jason said, "Partnerships built on trust are unshakable." The crowd's laughter echoed, hollow yet convincing. Maya watched from the sidewalk, hood low, rain dripping from its edge. Maya said, "He sells lies with a smile." Evelyn's hand rested on his sleeve like ownership carved in silk. Reporters scribbled, bulbs flared, and Jason grinned as if the city itself bowed. Maya clenched her jaw, notebook hidden beneath her coat. Ben whispered, "He looks untouchable." Maya's lips curved, but it was no smile. Maya said, "That's what makes him vulnerable." Lightning cracked beyond the towers, applause drowned it, and Maya felt the cut of resolve. The first sabotage came quietly. Maya slipped into the law archive after hours, fluorescent lights buzzing like secrets. She flipped files with steady hands, photocopied contracts sealed with Jason's initials. Maya said, "Paper tells the truth men bury." Her heart hammered like a drum, but her breath stayed even. She slipped pages into her folder, the sound sharp in the cavernous silence. Ben stood watch near the stairwell, foot tapping against tiled floor. Ben said, "5 minutes, Maya dash." She smirked, sliding the folder shut. Maya said, "Plenty of time." The exit light glowed green, a promise and a warning. They walked out into the night, rain swallowing their footprints. Jason leaned back in his penthouse office, whiskey glass in hand, while Evelyn scrolled gleefully through her phone. Evelyn said, "Someone tried pulling old files, but they'll find nothing useful." Jason smirked, eyes glinting like steel under the skyline glow. Jason said, "Let them chase shadows. I own the board." He poured amber liquid, slow, deliberate, as if time itself served him. The city lights reflected like trophies across the glass wall. Evelyn pressed a kiss to his cheek, triumphant. Outside, thunder rolled, and Maya's folder waited on her desk, patient as a blade. The war had begun, but Jason still believed himself untouchable. The night bent under memory as Maya unfolded the victim's journal, its spine cracked, pages lined with grief. Her mother's words carved scars into silence. Maya said, "He stole not just the ring, but her truth." Ben sat still, his jaw set, as if bracing against her pain. The journal told of debts unpaid, promises broken, trust turned into ash. Maya whispered, "This was the first betrayal long before mine." Outside, the street lamp hummed against fog, steady but faint. Ben said, "If we prove it, the world listens." She traced the ink, fingerprints smudged like bruises on history. The ache swelled, but it hardened into steel. Maya said. Her silence ended the day he flaunted her ring. The journal closed with a crack, and in that sound was the weight of every lie Jason told. Ben leaned forward, hands clasped like a prayer breaking apart. Ben said, Maya, revenge eats itself. It takes pieces you can't recover. She paced, restless as rain against the window, every step a beat of defiance. Maya said, and what if I give it pieces willingly? His eyes followed her, concern carving deeper lines in his young face. The hum of the fridge filled the silence between words. Ben said, you'll lose yourself before you win. She stopped at the door, hand on frame, shadow slicing her features. Maya said, I've already lost enough, now I'll take what's owed. His sigh trembled against the dark, but he stayed, unwilling to abandon her path. Jason raised a toast at the gala, chandeliers scattering light like broken glass across velvet gowns. Jason said, our future shines brighter than any past. Evelyn's hand glittered with the ring, every flash a knife to Maya's chest. She stood at the edge of the crowd, mask of composure painted thin. Maya whispered, every smile he sells is forged from lies. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed, laughter filled the room like a storm of glass. Evelyn leaned closer, whispering to Jason, who smirked, basking in the glow. Maya's fingers curled into fists around her clutch, fury disguised as elegance. Her eyes locked on them, the distance electric, the air thick with unspoken vows. The gala sparkled. But inside her, fire raged. Ruth lit another cigarette, her hands trembling as the flame flickered in the alley's dark. Ruth said, I once chased vengeance too, and it cost me everything. Smoke swirled like ghosts between them, bitter and gray. Maya leaned against the brick wall, rain dripping from the fire escape above. Maya said, then you know why I can't stop. Ruth's eyes narrowed, reflecting shards of regret. Ruth said, I lost my daughter to the same hunger. Revenge has no finish line. The words pressed against Maya's ribs, sharp and unyielding. Yet her silence carried defiance. Ruth shook her head, smoke spilling as a sigh. Ruth said, at least don't make my mistake. Don't burn the people who stay. The night held its breath, the city humming like an old wound. Maya returned to her apartment, journal clutched like a blade. She laid out contracts, photos, and notes across the table, the chaos forming patterns. Maya said, every lie leaves a trail. Ben hovered, restless, his eyes darting between shadows. Ben said, this is war now, Maya. She straightened, shoulders squared, face carved with resolve. Maya said, no, this is justice. The words steadied the storm inside her. The hum of the city seeped through the window, alive with sirens and horns. Her pulse matched its rhythm, steady, relentless. She lifted the journal one last time, kissed its spine, and set it down. Maya said, for her, for me, for everything he buried. The vow sealed itself in the silence, heavier than stone. Maya slipped into Jason's charity gala disguised as staff, silver tray balanced, mask of obedience painted on. Waiters swirled around chandeliers, laughter heavy with wealth. Maya said to catch a serpent, you crawl into its nest. Her eyes darted across polished marble, tracking Evelyn's diamond flash like a beacon. Jason stood near donors, words smooth as velvet blades. Ben whispered into her earpiece, you're too close, Maya. She straightened her back, forcing calm into her steps. Maya said, close is where the truth breathes. The champagne trembled in glasses as she passed, the air soaked with perfume and power. Her pulse drummed a warning, but she moved deeper into their world of masks. Later, in the garage beneath the hotel, Maya's path was blocked by a shadow that stepped from the dim. Victor, Jason's enforcer, towered with a scowl, etched deep. Victor said, he knows someone's digging where they shouldn't. His fists flexed like iron waiting for impact. Maya steadied her breath, clutching her folder tight against her ribs. Maya said, Tell Jason's secrets rot when buried too long. Victor's jaw tightened, but his eyes flickered with doubt. Ben rushed from the stairwell, voice sharp. Ben said, "We're leaving." Victor stepped closer, menace radiating, but he did not strike. His silence spoke of warning, and the echo of boots followed them into the night. Back at the apartment, Ben slammed the door and dropped his keys, frustration boiling over. Ben said, "You're turning this into suicide, Maya." Papers littered the table like fallen feathers of war. Maya turned sharply, eyes blazing. Maya said, "Then step aside, because this won't stop." His fists clenched, torn between fear and loyalty. Ben said, "I can't watch you drown yourself in fire." She froze, pain cracking through resolve for a moment. Maya said, "Then don't watch, help me." The silence pressed thick, broken only by the hum of the city beyond the glass. Ben's shoulders slumped, his eyes wet with anger. He stayed. Ruth leaned against the diner booth, her voice low, eyes heavy with secrets. Ruth said, "Jason built his empire on forged contracts and silenced names." She slid a manila envelope across the table, its corners soft with age. Maya lifted it, heart quickening at the weight inside. Ruth said, "That ring wasn't just a symbol, it was collateral once." Maya's brow furrowed, rage weaving tighter with revelation. Maya said, "He weaponized her memory to feed his greed." Ruth's lips pressed thin, trembling under the weight of her own past mistakes. The diner clock ticked, loud against the hush of empty booths. The truth was no longer hidden, it was fuel. Maya spread the new documents across her table, contracts tangled with deceit. Her breath came steady now, not frantic. Maya said, "This isn't revenge anymore, it's justice with teeth." Ben hovered, eyes searching her face for the girl he once knew. Ben said, "You're slipping further, Maya." She looked up, fire burning clear in her gaze. Maya said, "He stole futures, not just mine. He'll answer for all of them." The papers fluttered in the draft from the cracked window, city sirens whispering from afar. The room felt less like home, and more like a war room. Maya's resolve sharpened, a blade drawn from grief. There was no turning back. The envelope revealed Evelyn's name written in contracts older than her marriage. Maya froze, breath heavy. Maya said, "She wasn't a stranger, she was part of it all along." Ben scanned the papers, disbelief thick in his voice. Ben said, "She helped Jason bury the evidence." Evelyn's handwriting scrawled across margins, initials marked beside Jason's. Maya's chest tightened, betrayal stretching wider. Maya said, "She didn't steal him, she built him." The city thundered outside, neon bleeding through blinds, as if the skyline itself knew. Ben said, "This changes everything. She's not just the trophy, she's his partner." Maya folded the papers, resolve slicing deeper. Maya said, "Then she'll fall with him." At the cafe, Ruth's voice carried a weight that made the mugs tremble. Ruth said, "I warned you. The deeper you dig, the more dangerous the truth becomes." Maya shoved the contract forward, her glare unblinking. Maya said, "She was never innocent. She signed the lies." Ruth's face paled, fingers tapping the table like a dying clock. Ruth said, "Then you'll need to choose, destroy him or destroy them both." The choice pressed heavy, a stone on Maya's chest. Ben's hand gripped hers under the table, grounding her storm. Maya said both. No mercy left. Ruth exhaled, smoke spilling from her lips, eyes clouded with dread. The cafe seemed to shrink under the weight of decision. Victor lingered in the shadows of the alley, rain dripping from his leather coat. Victor said, "You're in over your head, Maya." She stepped closer, folder tight under her arm. Maya said, "So are you. Do you know what you're guarding?" His brow furrowed, doubt flickering. Victor said, "Jason gave me a life. That's all I need." Maya's voice cut sharp. Maya said, "He gave you chains, not life. Look at what he hides." She opened the folder, contracts glinting under streetlight. Victor hesitated, fists loosening. His silence told her the war had cracked his loyalty. Ben's voice echoed from behind. "Make your choice, Victor." The night carried the weight of a shifting allegiance. Ben burst into the apartment, pale and shaken. Ben said, "They know, Maya. Ruth sold us out." The words hit like broken glass across her chest. Maya staggered, the betrayal slicing deeper than expected. Maya said, "She guided me into the fire." Ben dropped his phone on the table. Messages revealed Ruth's contact with Jason. Ben said, "She chose survival over you." Maya's jaw locked, fury burning hotter than grief. Maya said, "Then she'll fall too." Silence suffocated the room, papers trembling in the draft. Outside, sirens howled like warnings, but Maya's eyes no longer softened. The last shred of trust crumbled into ash. At the penthouse party, Jason's mask finally cracked. His voice boomed over clinking glasses. Jason said, "Everything I built is mine, and no one can tear it down." Evelyn's smile trembled, her hand squeezing his arm too tightly. Maya, hidden among guests, whispered into her recorder. Maya said, "Arrogance is always the first confession." She captured his words, each syllable a blade sharpening. Evelyn's eyes flickered with unease, the weight of exposure pressing closer. The room spun with music, laughter clashing with the rising storm outside. Ben's voice hummed in her earpiece, "We have him. Now we finish this." Maya's lips curved, the first real smile in months. The trap was closing. The storm cracked above the city as Maya pushed into Evelyn's private suite. The hum of celebration muffled behind her. Evelyn turned, diamond catching the lightning. Evelyn said, "You shouldn't be here." Maya stepped forward, her voice cold. Maya said, "You wore my mother's ring," as if her memory meant nothing. Evelyn's jaw tightened, mask fracturing under pressure. Evelyn said, "Jason promised me power, and I took it. You were weak enough to lose it." The words sliced deep, but Maya stood taller, eyes fierce. Maya said, "Weakness is letting him chain you to his lies." For a moment, silence hung like glass about to shatter. Evelyn's hand trembled as she lifted her champagne flute, yet her eyes dared Maya to strike first. The storm outside roared, the walls closing in on their collision. Jason stormed into the boardroom, thunder at his back, reporters buzzing outside the glass walls. Jason said, "You think forged papers and whispers can touch me?" He slammed contracts onto the polished table. Maya's recorder blinked red, silent witness to every word. Maya said, "The world doesn't need to believe me. It needs to hear you." Jason's eyes narrowed, the charm peeled back to raw fury. Jason said, "I built this city's trust on power. You'll never break it." Evelyn stood frozen, cracks showing in her composure. Maya said, "Then you've already broken yourself." Lightning lit the skyline, and cameras flashed from beyond the glass, shadows of truth sharpening against Jason's face. Victor lingered in the corner, fists clenched, eyes locked on Jason as memories flickered behind them. Jason said, "Victor, end this." His voice carried command, expecting obedience. Victor's chest heaved, the storm inside him louder than the one outside. Maya said, "You've seen what he does. Are you still his weapon?" Victor's fists loosened, doubt finally breaking chains. Jason's face twisted in disbelief. Jason said, "You owe me everything." Victor stepped forward, voice low, final. Victor said, "Not anymore." Silence cracked open, heavier than thunder. For the first time, Jason looked small, his empire trembling from within. The fight for truth erupted beyond words. Jason lunged, shoving the table, contracts scattering like shrapnel. Maya fell back, clutching the recorder, while Evelyn screamed, her mask fully shattered. Ben rushed in from the doorway, pulling Maya upright. Ben said, "You're not alone in this." Jason swung wildly, rage replacing control, but Victor blocked him, fists colliding like thunder. Maya steadied herself, heart hammering with fire, not fear. Maya said, "This is the end, Jason." Lightning carved the sky, police sirens wailing closer. Jason roared, but his empire had already begun to collapse. The truth was no longer his to bury. The sirens blazed outside as officers stormed the glass doors, their flashlights scattering the storm's glow. Maya stood tall, voice steady. Maya said, "Here's your confession." She pressed play, Jason's arrogant words echoing across the room, louder than the thunder. Evelyn sank into a chair, trembling, mascara streaking her face. Jason lunged once more, but Victor held him down, iron grip sealing fate. Ben stood beside Maya, his hand briefly brushing hers in solidarity. Jason said, "You think this ends me?" His voice cracked with desperation. Maya leaned forward, eyes unyielding. Maya said, "It already has." The storm subsided, the city exhaling as justice filled the air. The climax had cut deep, but it was done. The boardroom emptied into silence, broken only by the faint hiss of rain. Maya stood among shattered contracts, her chest heaving with the weight of victory and loss. Ben rested a hand on her shoulder, voice low but steady. Ben said, "It's over, Maya." Her eyes traveled across the room. Jason restrained, Evelyn collapsed. Ruth absent in betrayal, Victor slumped with his own ghosts. Maya said, "Over doesn't mean heal." The storm outside eased into drizzle, as if the city itself exhaled. For a moment, she let her eyes close, hearing her mother's voice echo in memory. "Guard it well. It holds our name." Maya whispered, "I kept the promise." Her tears did not fall, they froze into strength. In the days after, the world consumed Jason's downfall. Headlines bled across screens, contracts leaked into every outlet, and Evelyn's name carved its own scandal. Ben said, "You've burned his empire to the ground." Maya stared at her mother's journal, its cover scarred yet whole. Maya said, "I didn't burn it. I revealed the ashes it was built on." Crowds outside chanted for justice, their cries echoing like thunder reborn. Ruth's absence weighed heavy, her betrayal etched like salt on an open wound. Maya whispered, "Even guides can be deceivers." Yet her resolve didn't falter. The world no longer doubted her voice. It listened. That evening, Maya returned to the cafe where Ruth had once warned her. The booth sat empty, shadows stretching across cracked leather. She ordered black coffee, the bitter taste grounding her. Maya said, "Some debts never pay out clean." Ben slid into the opposite seat, his presence quiet but steady. Ben said, "You won, but at what cost?" She traced a finger along the table's grooves, her reflection fractured in the neon glow. Maya said, "Revenge doesn't heal, it scars. But scars remind us we survived." The words clung heavy, but her eyes no longer burned. They steadied, focused on tomorrow, not yesterday. The courtroom echoed days later as Jason's empire unraveled publicly. Maya sat at the back, her eyes sharp yet calm. Jason shouted, chains rattling, still clinging to arrogance. Jason said, "This city owes me everything." Reporters scribbled, cameras clicked, capturing his collapse. Evelyn sat apart, pale and hollow, silence replacing her once radiant mask. Victor stood with folded arms near the exit, no longer bound, only haunted. Maya whispered, "Every lie has its day." The judge's gavel cracked like thunder, the verdict sealing his fate. The empire was gone, and with it, his power. On a quiet rooftop at dawn, Maya stood alone, the city bathed in pale light. The storm had passed, leaving streets slick with reflection. She lifted her mother's journal, pressing it against her chest. Maya whispered, "The ring is gone, but the promise remains." The skyline stretched endless, alive with possibility. Ben's voice called softly from behind, "You're free now." She turned, lips curving faintly, not joy, but release. Maya said, "Freedom isn't forgetting, it's carrying the scars without letting them own you." Silence lingered, then the wind carried her words into morning. The final chapter had closed, But her story burned forward.